Flame Princess is one of Adventure Time's most complex characters, and her journey reveals profound truths about forgiveness that most of us never fully grasp. She's not just some fire elemental who dates Finn for a while. She's actually one of the most emotionally intelligent characters in the entire series, and her story teaches us something crucial about what real forgiveness looks like versus what we think it should look like. See, most people think forgiveness is this clean, simple thing. You get hurt, you forgive, you move on. But Flame Princess shows us that forgiveness isn't about letting people off the hook or pretending nothing happened. It's about something much deeper and way more complicated than that. Her story begins in a prison, literally. Her own father locked her away because he was terrified of what she might become if her emotions ran too hot. Think about that for a second. She was in prison not for what she did, but for what someone else feared she might do. That's trauma right there. That's being punished for existing, for having feelings that burn too bright for other people's comfort. And when Finn first meets her, she's this isolated, lonely person who's never experienced genuine connection. She doesn't know how to navigate relationships or trust or any of that stuff because she's been locked away from the world. But here's what's beautiful about her character development. She doesn't let that isolation turn her bitter. She doesn't become the monster everyone expected her to be. Instead, she chooses curiosity over resentment. When Finn approaches her, she's cautious but open. She wants to understand this strange human boy who isn't afraid of her flames. And that openness, that willingness to connect despite her past, that's already a form of forgiveness. She's forgiving the world for treating her like a threat before she even had a chance to prove otherwise. But then Finn betrays that trust in the worst possible way. In Frost and Fire, he manipulates her emotions just so he can have some weird prophetic dreams. He literally uses her feelings as entertainment, writing fake letters to make her fight Ice King while he watches and gets excited about it. It's honestly one of the most messed up things any main character does in the entire series. And when she finds out, she has every right to completely lose it. She could have burned down the Candy Kingdom. She could have become exactly what everyone always said she was. But she doesn't. Instead, she does something way more powerful. She walks away. That scene where she confronts Finn after discovering his manipulation is incredible. She doesn't scream or explode or seek revenge. She just looks at him with this profound disappointment and says the relationship is over. She's hurt, yes. She's angry, absolutely. But she doesn't let that anger consume her or define her next moves. This is where Flame Princess teaches us the first major lesson about forgiveness. Real forgiveness doesn't mean you have to keep toxic people in your life. It doesn't mean you pretend the hurt never happened. Sometimes the most forgiving thing you can do is protect yourself by walking away. She creates boundaries. She focuses on healing. She doesn't spend episodes plotting revenge or trying to hurt Finn back. She just removes herself from the situation and starts rebuilding. That takes incredible emotional maturity, especially for someone who was literally raised in isolation. But here's where it gets really interesting. Later in the series, we see how she's processed this betrayal. In Earth and Water, when Princess Bubblegum wants to run experiments on her, Flame Princess agrees because she wants to understand her own emotions better. She's not trying to suppress her feelings or become someone else. She wants to understand why she feels so intensely and how to channel that intensity in healthy ways. This is profound. Instead of viewing her emotional nature as something broken that needs fixing, she's trying to understand it. She's not apologizing for who she is. She's just learning how to be herself in a way that doesn't hurt the people she cares about. And when Cinnamon Bun tells her the truth about her past, about how Princess Bubblegum was involved in her imprisonment, she doesn't immediately lash out. She processes the information, she thinks about it. Then she makes a decision based on what she believes is right, not just what she feels in the moment. She goes back to the Fire Kingdom and confronts her father. But notice how she handles this confrontation. She doesn't just burn everything down in a rage. She challenges him to combat, yes, but it's structured, it's intentional. She's not acting out of pure emotion anymore, she's acting out of principle. When she defeats her father and becomes the new ruler, she doesn't execute him or banish him or seek brutal revenge. She just removes him from power and takes responsibility for her people. That's forgiveness in action. Not forgetting, not excusing, but choosing to break the cycle of harm. And here's something most people miss. Throughout all of this, she never completely closes the door on Finn. She doesn't hate him. She doesn't try to hurt him. When they interact in later episodes, she's cordial but boundaried. She's moved on, but she hasn't let bitterness poison her heart. In the cooler, we see her working with Princess Bubblegum despite their complicated history. She doesn't trust PB completely, and she shouldn't, but she's willing to work together when her people are in danger. She puts the greater good above her personal grievances, but she also doesn't let PB manipulate her. When she discovers that Bubblegum was behind the cooling of the Fire Kingdom, she calls her out. She fights back, but even then, she's not fighting out of hatred. She's fighting to protect her people and to establish that she won't be controlled or deceived anymore. And at the end of that episode, when PB admits she was wrong and tries to make amends, Flame Princess doesn't immediately forgive her. She doesn't say it's okay or pretend it didn't matter. She just acknowledges the gesture and moves forward. That's mature forgiveness. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic reconciliations. It's about choosing not to let past hurts define your present relationships. Throughout the later seasons, we see Flame Princess as this incredibly capable leader who's learned to balance her passionate nature with wisdom and restraint. She's not the isolated, confused girl we met in Season 3. She's become someone who understands her own power and uses it responsibly, but she never loses her capacity for warmth or connection. When appropriate, she's still willing to be vulnerable, to trust, to care deeply. She just does it with better boundaries and clearer understanding of her own worth. This is what real forgiveness looks like. It's not about being a doormat or letting people walk all over you. It's not about pretending hurt never happened or that betrayal doesn't matter. Real forgiveness is about processing your pain, learning from it, and then choosing not to let it control your future. Flame Princess forgives by refusing to become bitter. She forgives by setting healthy boundaries. She forgives by focusing on her own growth instead of seeking revenge. She forgives by not letting other people's actions determine who she becomes. And maybe most importantly, she shows us that forgiveness is a process, not a single moment. She doesn't have some dramatic scene where she declares that she forgives everyone. Instead, she demonstrates forgiveness through her choices, through how she treats people, through how she leads her kingdom. She breaks cycles instead of perpetuating them. Her father imprisoned her out of fear, but she doesn't rule through fear. Finn manipulated her emotions, but she doesn't become manipulative. Princess Bubblegum deceived her, but she doesn't become deceptive. That's the ultimate lesson Flame Princess teaches about forgiveness. It's not about the other person at all. It's about who you choose to become in response to how you've been treated. You can let hurt make you bitter and closed off, or you can let it make you wiser and more compassionate. Flame Princess chose wisdom. She chose growth. She chose to become the kind of person she needed when she was locked in that prison. And in doing so, she shows us what forgiveness really means. It's not about forgetting or excusing. It's about refusing to let other people's failures define your character. She teaches us that you can acknowledge hurt without being consumed by it. You can set boundaries without building walls. You can protect yourself without becoming cold. You can move forward without leaving your authentic self behind. And that's why Flame Princess is such a powerful character. She takes all this trauma and betrayal and pain, and instead of letting it destroy her, she uses it to become stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. She shows us that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's actually the strongest thing you can do. Because when you truly forgive, you're not doing it for the person who hurt you. You're doing it for yourself. You're choosing freedom over resentment, growth over stagnation, hope over bitterness. And that choice, that daily decision to not let past hurt control your present peace, that's what real power looks like.